businesses and business owners to make sure that their legal rights and interests are protected. As general counsel for you and your organization, I can draft and review solid contracts, minimize the risk of litigation, review and prepare comprehensive business succession plans, or help you navigate your company with the local, state, and federal government. Take a decisive step today. I'm here to make sure your legal rights are protected and you have a peace of mind that you deserve.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.
Welcome to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I'm Jen Gaudet, your fearless host, investor, entrepreneur, and business strategist. I'm here today because I believe that iron sharpens iron. And when we share what's working in business and maybe some of what isn't, we're able to all learn and grow, elevating ourselves personally and professionally, elevating our businesses. And the ripple effect of that impacts not only us and our families, but our teams, their families, our communities, and the world. I'm really excited to bring today an exceptionally successful entrepreneur and fellow investor, Linda Chung. Linda is the CEO, yes, you heard it, the CEO of Debt Free Lifestyle and also Chung Financial Group. She is a very experienced individual. She has a background in law, in branding, and so many other things. And so I know that you're going to find a lot of value. So get your notebooks out. You're going to want your notebooks and your pencil for this episode. Welcome to the studio, Linda.
Thank you, Jen. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. So Linda, let's kind of like give the overview. What was it that brought you into entrepreneurship? Like, what was that driving factor for you? And tell me just a little bit of the background behind that.
So I had, as you mentioned, Jen, I was a former lawyer. So a former corporate lawyer, worked for a top 5 global law firm in New York City. Not very, very tough to get into and prestigious, good 6-figure income. But I was spending too much time in an office with, working 60, 80, 100-hour weeks. And I was just like, there's got to be something better, sitting at midnight, at my desk, or sometimes even falling asleep there, or even, I think the pinnacle was the moment when I celebrated, I think it was my 30th birthday, midnight, and I'm sitting there at the office and I'm like, something's got to change. So, and then it was just really from there, it was a path to figure out what that was for me.
A lot of people have that same story. They worked in a corporate environment. They had the golden handcuffs, is what we like to say. They're really high performers, and then they move into entrepreneurship. And one of two things happens. One, they have a plan, and by plan, I mean a financial plan, and as well as the business plan and strategy. Or they just say, I'm done, I'm going to do it by myself, and they enter without a plan. Which of those were you, and what have you seen in the entrepreneurs that you've mentored and coached and spoke with as far as how it works out in either way?
I had a plan, but I would say I guess started early with the entrepreneurial path. I pivoted many different times. So I thought I was going to... I confused, I think this is what a lot of entrepreneurs do, confused passion and liking something for that making a great business. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's two separate things. I think I did that couple different times actually, because I was very much into music, love music. I'm dating myself, but would buy CDs and things like that. There's these hard cases that they print the music on, And I thought, oh, okay, well, I love music, so why don't I go work for the music industry? And I pivoted to work in-house at Sony Music. So I did pretty much that same thing when I left there. And I thought, okay, well, I love food, so I'm going to go into the food business. Well, loving food, loving music is very different from the business of food and the business of music. So I think that was one of the big first lessons that I learned, that the difference between a hobby and a career path is very big. And, hobbies, you love them and they cost you money. Business, ideally, fundamentally, is about making money. So.
Absolutely. And so you kind of pivoted a couple of times and then you landed where you are now and you're very successful. You were able to build your 7-figure business in 3 years, which is a feat because we know that there's 31 million businesses in the United States and a very small percentage of them ever get to 6 figures and an even smaller percentage get to 7. So you did that within 3 years. And you and I have talked a lot of times, and a lot of that picture is having a plan, but not just a business plan, but also a financial plan. Can you speak to me a little bit about what that looks like? Because in my coaching and in my experience, a lot of my clients do not have that solid financial understanding and plan when they transition out, or even once they're in, the beginning stages of a business where the money is going seemingly in the wrong direction. So tell me a little bit about how that was for you and how you are working with individuals on their financial side of things.
Yeah, some of it is less like we work for big businesses and, I worked at a global CPG company as well. And, we had to manage P&Ls, but oftentimes when you start that entrepreneurial path, you don't, tend to just go with it and just, start making money, start making sales. And that's all great, and money's coming in, and you're like happy, but not to also confuse the, income or revenues coming in. That's not the same as profit, right? So really just having those kind of know your numbers is one of the main things. And also know, what you need to live off of. Just to be, as you're starting that entrepreneurial path, you need to really know, like, what do you need to cover the basics? And I'm, I was a corporate lawyer, so I don't want people to jump into the entrepreneurial path irresponsibly, but if you have fixed, expenses, you might have mortgage, car payments, kids, etc. You need to evaluate and do the numbers before and understand, okay, where can I cut back maybe and be lean? And I'll be honest, when I was starting my business, I was just like, I have lived in very nice apartments and so forth, but having a nice apartment when I was starting off as an entrepreneur was not a priority for me. I used to have dinner parties, not a priority for me when I was starting my business. So I was, I moved down to Florida, which, I was in New York City area for many years, and I just made that choice. It's just like all my, earnings and so forth could go a lot farther there because the cost of living was so much lower, and I just was just like, I'm going to focus on just pouring into making my, every dollar and, my time really focused on building the business. And that was the clear focus. And I think it, it served me well because I didn't really look up for, I would say, a good solid year and a half, and was able to build a business, very successfully from that foundation.
Linda, something that this happens a lot. I've coached thousands of entrepreneurs and they will come to me and they will say, I'm working so hard. I don't have a successful business. And then when we actually look at their business numbers, their business expenses, their P&L, and they're actually profiting quite well. They may be profiting $10,000, $15,000 a month in the early stages. But because their living expenses, they're living at the $15,000, $20,000 a month expense range, they are saying they don't have a successful business, which just isn't the case. And I heard you say you had to get lean and mean on the personal side of finances and stretch your dollars. So I would love to hear, what is it that someone who's maybe in a corporate gig looking to transition into entrepreneurship, like what are some of the preps that they can do? What are some of the things they can do to get lean and mean? And then how much, reserve income should they have? Because you and I both know it's not like you have a business and then all of a sudden you have revenue and profit coming in that can make up. We need some sort of a living expense account that we can draw from while we're ramping up our business. So what is it that you find tends to be like that silver bullet for people?
I think, just first is just, I'd say just starting with knowing where you're at, and it's just kind of doing a very much just like no judgment-free zone, but just kind of like, okay, here are all the expenses that you have, the fixed ones, here are the variable ones, and often looking at like, home rent, especially in New York City, that could be like half, your monthly expenses. Knowing that, and then asking yourself, okay, well, it's all about values. And really what's, trading off your values, vacations. I didn't take a vacation, per se, but now just as a business owner, everywhere I go pretty much is a, business expense, because there's always a legitimate business reason I'm traveling now. And they just happen to be great places as well, but, it's just making those decisions and really being very clear on what your highest values are, and then cut, the things that I was a shopaholic, proclaimed, like corporate lawyer, retail therapy. You could tell how stressed I was by how thick my credit card statements were, and I lived very close to Bloomingdale's in the city, which was too dangerous, So, things like that, I was just like, no, I don't need, it's not the priority. And it's really just getting into those good habits. But first, you really need to know where you're at and then where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. And so you talked about habits, and I really want to dial into that, because one thing, and I think we've actually chatted about this before, to make a successful entrepreneur, to be successful in a growing career, no matter where we are in life or even in life, it's about the small daily behaviors that we do over time. And those consistent habits are what set us up for success. And I know you really are passionate about the financial fitness, the financial the FQ of things, if you will. What are some of those daily habits that someone who maybe hasn't been paying attention to the P&L, or their expenses are a bunch of wants instead of needs? What are some of those daily habits that maybe they can start with so that they can just start to build that foundation?
Yeah, the FQ, the financial intelligence. We heard about IQ, EQ, so, FQ is one, just awareness is first step, so one is it's like, how much do you have as just like even an overall net worth? Net worth typically is just more like, what's your, assets, minus your liabilities, and, there's debate whether or not you include your primary home, as in that or not. But regardless, you want to know that as a kind of snapshot. And then also you want to know what's coming in and out. And one of the easy things now with technology is I, didn't do this so much before when I was an employee, because, the paychecks were the same and the income and the expenses were all the same. But when you start an entrepreneurial path, it's very up and down, and it can be good months, good weeks, bad weeks. Overall, though, I think generally I say your days and your weeks can be unpredictable, but if you consistently apply the habits and activity, then your months tend to overall be consistent, So, and then your years can become consistent if your months are. But one of the, simple little things is just knowing what your, I get an alert in terms of all my deposits. It's kind of a good association. It's just like, okay, deposit here, deposit here, deposit here. Just even separating that, from the get-go, and I admit I was guilty of this because I wasn't sure, starting my business in financial services, if, this was going to be my, home or career. So I didn't set up a separate LLC. I didn't set up a separate business account. But guess what? If you don't separate those things, if you don't treat it legally and financially as separate, personal and business, guess what? IRS, legally, they won't either, and you're really subjecting your business. You're taking on additional risk, where in some business situations, you could have some business issues and they can go after you personally. So knowing what's coming in, knowing what's going out, and trying to review that. I try to at least once a month, but then, if you're really good and want to get that extra credit, like once a week, just kind of doing a double check, because there are so many things that get charged, expenses, a lot of fraud going on. I just recently had to close 2 business credit cards because somehow, somehow someone got a hold of it, and I have no idea, and usually just one little charge that goes unnoticed, maybe $1 here, and then the wham, 5,000, like big things like that. So you got to be on top of it.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a huge risk for business owners. And one of the things that it's a personal pet peeve of mine is when there's intermingling, because if you don't have a separate business account, how do you know what's actually business versus personal? And then, you know, it's something that we talk about a lot with our clients, because in the beginning of business, they're like, well, I don't have the money, but you can either get a loan for that from the bank, or you can loan yourself with the proper documentation. You can self-capitalize. I've bootstrapped my businesses. Now I'm into more acquisitions, but like I bootstrap my businesses. And so I self-capitalize. Well, it's important to also paper trail that. So I would love for you to speak just a little bit to that, because you have that legal background as well as the financial. And it's something that a lot of people don't understand. They're like, oh, well, I'm using my own money, so I'm just going to keep paying myself, and this is back and forth. But it can't actually be that way. So talk about somebody who wants to bootstrap a business, who's going to self-fund. Like, what are some of the things that they should be thinking about or considering right from the get-go, and some of the considerations, because you do have that legal expertise as well?
Yeah, something even simple. Like I have a philosophy, something better than nothing type of thing. And if you don't, having gone through it multiple times, like setting up a business account, they require a lot of documentation, require a separate LLC, all these things. You don't necessarily have to do that from day one, but you can just set up a separate personal bank account, that only business income comes in and only business expenses go out. And then you can transfer and do a distribution for your living expenses as the owner of this. You can distribute, your, earnings from that to your personal account, and if you need that to live off of. But also, same thing, just have a separate account. Like maybe you don't have to apply for a business credit card, but you can start with using just a separate card only for business expenses. Makes your life so much simpler, because it's really, in order for it to be a habit, it has to be simple enough for you to continuously do it. If you make it, if you're a perfectionist or trying to, go for 100% or something, it might be too much. And I've been guilty of this too, to be sustainable for you to actually do it. So really, done better than perfect is really, I think Mark Zuckerberg says, an entrepreneur's mantra, right? And then you can just work on, okay, I did that part, and then I just get a little bit better and a little bit better, over time. So it doesn't have to go from 0 to 100 perfection, like overnight.
Absolutely. And something that I like to use as a resource, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a book called Profit First, and it's by my
I was just going to mention that. That's
that
exactly,
is a resource. Yep. Mm-hmm. Every one of my business coaching clients, it's required reading, because it's so simple. If you actually follow the steps and set your business up with separate accounts, it's like a one click. You go into your app and you can immediately have a snapshot of what your cash flow looks like, what the money set aside to pay your taxes looks like. Like, it's just so much easier to have a grasp on where your cash is going and where your expense account and all that. Like, it's different accounts for different things. And for some people, it's overwhelming, but once it's set up, it's like pressing the easy button. And I really, really like that. So if you're watching from home, the book is called Profit First, and the author is Mike Michalowicz. Don't ask me to spell it, because I'm going to butcher that.
You can Google it. It's like Mike the Mechanic. I literally just had that, I don't know. I have it with me.
I mean, it's so incredibly important. And so, that's even one simple thing. It takes not a lot of time to go through the book. It's very do this, do this, do this. Just reading it doesn't count. If you just read it,
it doesn't help you.
Doing it right. Go chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
And implement it, because what I have found, because I found that in maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. So for the first several years of my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't have that. And it was just such a chore, because reading P&Ls for someone who's not an accountant, I was in medicine. So, doctors, we're all about science. We're not all about math. So it was hard for me to understand what the numbers actually meant. But once I shifted to that it was so simple, it's a no-brainer. Anybody can look and do it. So I strongly recommend that. So Linda, you're all about the debt-free lifestyle, and you and I both share some of this background. Talk to me about that, because today we have two schools of thought on how do we become financial independent, right? There's the leveraging debt side, and people can get into a lot of trouble. Like we saw that in 2007, 8, 9, where people were over leveraged and they ended up, having issues. But there's the leveraging debt side versus the debt-free side. So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like and how that works and how you've been able to be so successful living that debt-free financial independence lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, financial stress is, to me, it's one of the biggest kind of core reasons of so much distress overall. And then it can also then lead to health issues, relationship stress. It's kind of like, because the reality of the world that we live in, I'm not like this, I got to make $1 million like this, money is really, I think, a tool,
Mm-hmm.
And it's really like, you got to look at your beliefs in terms of money, because that will definitely affect how you relate to it. Right. And, I grew up Asian, Korean culture, and, it's not really, we didn't talk about money, so it's really kind of like interesting. How are we supposed to know about money? How are we supposed to learn about this? We don't really learn about it in school so much. And I went to Columbia Business School, and they don't really teach you how to, do personal finance,
Mm-hmm.
they P&Ls for accounting and things like that. So, really and it's not like anything is inherently good or bad. Debt is also, like money, is a tool, and really you have to understand and ask yourself, I think the more important question is why? And that will, because you can, like to say, like example of another thing, like a knife in the hands of a killer can be bad, right? Mm-hmm. But the knife in the hands of a skilled surgeon can save lives. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the knife itself is inherently good or bad. It's how it's used, why it's used, the context of it. So I think the same thing with debt. Debt can be used as a tool, but also knowing that if you incur a lot of debt for things that are not really assets and it's just spending, consumerism, materialism, it's not gonna help you. And just if you're looking at that's not sustainable, just because if you keep on consuming, and your lifestyle is such that you're not able to make enough to afford the lifestyle that you want, that's an issue. That's not gonna help. Even bankruptcy and things like that, even, getting out of having your debt's completely paid off. If you don't understand the mental, and emotional reasons why that debt is incurred in the first place, you're just going to repeat history over and over again.
Absolutely. And it's really funny. I saw a statistic that 96% of Americans actually are over leveraged, like they're living outside of their means. And that's a very large statistic, and a very large amount of debt. But we are in a culture that promotes it, right? As soon as you go to college, what are they doing? They're throwing credit cards at you, but there's no instructions on how to actually utilize a credit card in a way that is impactful or effective. We live a debt lifestyle. Oh, it's okay. It's expected that you pay $4,000 or $5,000 on your mortgage. Like, that's absurd to me personally, because I grew up with give the shirt off your back mentality. And money is the root of all evil. Like, that was my money story growing up. And it took a lot to get to the point where like you said, money is simply a mechanism of exchange. It's how much value have you given. And so what mindset shift, because this is a very common situation, just like I was talking about earlier, people thought they didn't have a successful business. Well, it's because their spending personally outweighed what their business was bringing in on the profit line. But what are some of the things that people who are kind of in this going, well, I actually need these things, like how do you help guide people into that financial intelligence?
One of the main things that you have to understand is you have to meet people where they are, and with no judgment. And, no one, and you don't want to shame people into feeling bad. It's just like people don't know what they don't know. And it's kind of like, it's like you can't, like I tend to think a lot in analogy. It's like trying to, and my coaching and mentoring other people too, and helping them mentor other people. It's just like you're expecting, like, essentially think of this person as like a baby or a 5-year-old, and what you're asking them is essentially is like, why can't you drive this car, or why can't you do calculus? It's just way too big of a jump for where they are, right? And that's one thing I think is super important, just to just meet people wherever they're at, not look down upon them, and not look, I think, I have this image of people in a hole. Sometimes people are stuck in a hole, right? And you can be the person that's looking down at them. It's just like, you shouldn't be in that hole. Well, they're in that hole. So like, shouldn't be is kind of not helpful, right? Or you can just be like, all right, just get out of the hole. But they can't. They don't know how. Like, they're stuck in this hole, and that's not really helpful either. Versus being like, okay, I've been in that hole before, and if you can you just reach up your hand a little bit, and I'll reach my hand too, and we're in this together, and we can I'll show you what has helped for me, what worked for me. And then the more people that can get like coaching or mentoring from other people, and then they can figure out their way, I think is super important.
Yep, that step-by-step process and having the tools is so incredibly important. And the reality is we don't learn it in school. It's not something that is taught. I think it was a long time ago, and I'm definitely dating myself because I had to take home economics back in the day. And one of the things
me too. So
yeah, well, we had a budget, and we had to completely furnish an apartment and live for a month, utilities and all, on a very small amount of money. And so that was incredibly valuable, but we didn't learn that till we were in high school. That's something that, like, the building blocks are things that we can be teaching to our children very, very early, so that they start to have a little bit of those tools and can start to learn. We unfortunately have to take a brief break, but stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Gaudet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
You probably already know that first impressions are never forgotten. However, did you also know the way you feel about yourself contributes to your quality of life and the opinions of others? Hi, my name is Kristen Gunderson. My mission is to help people by flipping the switch inside their body, which in turn will help them to feel better and do more. In fact, once you feel your best, you will be able to pour into others, keep your cup full, and reach every goal you have set up for yourself, whether it's personal, family, or business related. The way you feel will dictate the way you think and the way you live your life. Feeling your best is necessary to achieve your goals. You deserve to put yourself first. Let me help you flip the switch so you can feel better and do more. Let's talk. I know I can help.
Hi, my name is Elias Basabe, founder of Little Maria's Cafe restaurant in West Houston, located in 2901 Wilkers Drive, Suite 137, first floor. Here you will find a family-friendly and relaxed environment where you can enjoy a delicious homemade breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We know you need to get to work fast, and we want you to enjoy a tasty, quality, and healthy homemade food. So come and visit us for a great, nutritious meal at an affordable price. We specialize in tasty breakfasts, deli sandwiches, fish, even barbecue cookouts. Little Maria's Cafe has it all. We only use the great quality of bird's head meats and products. Just like you, we love to get you up early. Little Maria's Cafe is open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can dine in with us during breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or we can have it ready for you for pickup. Visit us today on the first floor of the CMPC Center at 2901 Wilkers Drive, Suite 137, first floor. Order now at 832-667-8376, Little Maria's Cafe.
Stop and think. How often do you take the time to set goals? And when you set those goals, how often do you hit them? The problem is the word goal setting. We all have goals, but goals are just wishes. Goals are what we want. What we really need is called result setting. My name is Katrin Becker, and what I do is create tailor-made result plans that ensure people will hit their targets. If you are committed for real results, let's chat and see which program is right for you and your team. Goals are just what we want, but together, results are what we will achieve.
Working through the legal system is challenging and risky, especially if you don't have the right attorney at your side. Hi, my name is Sonia Aston, and I'm an attorney with over 30 years of experience. I've helped small and medium-sized businesses and business owners to make sure that their legal rights and interests are protected. As general counsel for you and your organization, I can draft and review solid contracts, minimize the risk of litigation, review and prepare comprehensive business succession plans, or help you navigate your company with the local, state, and federal government. Take a decisive step today. I'm here to make sure your legal rights are protected and you have a peace of mind that you deserve.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I'm Jen Gaudet, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. And I'm here with Linda Chung, who is the financial guru. She is the CEO of Debt Free Lifestyle, and she really has been talking a lot about what are the basic building blocks to a debt-free lifestyle, to financial independence. What are the things that we need to know before we jump into entrepreneurship and as entrepreneurs? And if you're just now tuning in, you're going to want to go to NowMedia.tv and go to Power CEOs and catch the first segment because it was pure gold. And we're just going to build on that now. So Linda, we were talking in the break about how challenging it is for a lot of entrepreneurs, unless they're already an accountant or unless they're an engineer, to actually be familiar with numbers. It's almost like they're allergic to the numbers, the financial numbers, the sales numbers, doesn't matter. Numbers are very scary to them. And so a lot of times as a result, they end up not understanding how to look at their P&L, how to understand what the numbers are telling them when they hire a CPA. They don't know how to hire the right CPA or bookkeeper, and sometimes they get taken advantage of. So I want to kind of dive deep into that because I think it's very valuable, the information that you bring and the expertise that you have. So what would you tell an entrepreneur who has an allergy to numbers, like they're super scared of it? Like, how can they find the right resource, the right coach, mentor, CPA, or bookkeeper so that they can be safe and moving forward in their business and start that learning process?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's a great question because I definitely run into that a lot, allergic to numbers. And part of it actually just starts with the mindset too. When you have the mindset, like, I'm just not a numbers person, like you're just basically, that's like a static mindset. It's not like, I firmly believe that, really like almost anything is learnable. and there's certain things in reality, yes, I can't change. I'm not going to be like a 6-foot blonde, blue-eyed runway model or an NBA basketball player. Those things, there's limitations in reality. But in terms of learning, skills, everything is learnable, and it's just kind of like different people learn different ways, and how we learn, in grade school, the way that often we're taught, is, if you don't get it in the way that people were taught in school traditionally, then somehow you're stupid, or you have these stories about yourself, and that it's like really can affect your mindset, especially at a young age, and, part of that is, addressing that part, and realizing, well, do you think, is there a possibility that you could, just learn, this bit and little, you can learn fractions is something simple and relatable as who here likes pizza? You know what I mean? Like if there are 8 slices of pizza and you take out, eat 4 of them, how much do you have left? Right? So things like that make it relatable because there are different ways that we learn. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, they learn by touching. So I think that's really important to know for yourself, like how you learn, because traditionally school is just, kind of written digitally, and that's not for everyone.
Absolutely. And so for the people who are learning and they're starting with the baby step, like what's the baby step when you're in entrepreneurship and you're like, I'm allergic to numbers? Like what is the first thing that you would say, listen, pay attention to these things. These are the most important things to start. And once we get there, then we'll take the next step.
Yeah, some basic things they just want to understand, like, their cash flow. So we already talked about net worth, but really cash flow is more important, I think, for entrepreneurs, because most of the times it's really like, doesn't matter what your net worth is. If you don't have cash flow, you're not going to be in business, for very long. It's like the oxygen mask, really. So, and, you really need to understand and just be able to add up something just as simple. It doesn't need to be this complicated software system or anything like that. You can do simple, just even something Google Sheets, literally, and just getting in the habit of, learning how to keep track of other kinds of numbers, right? Like if you're going on a diet and you want to just keep track of your calories, same thing. Just putting the numbers in there will help, and then the Google Sheets, the software is pretty easy to add up and so forth, and just start basic. Simple math. You don't need to do complex math in order to understand what are all the income I get. I generally, like to look at things like on a weekly or monthly basis. And then what are all the subtraction? What are the expenses that are going out? Simple like that. And you just do that on a month by month basis. And then you can see where you are and total for the year. So you're not surprised a year from now at the end, where you netted out. Because it's just more like ongoing. And then also, too, you're not surprised, oftentimes we're right around, tax season, right? Tax returns are due, Monday. You're not going to be surprised that, oops, I owe something, a big thing, and because if you're doing this, just that basic, simple math on an ongoing basis will help you dramatically. And the stress often comes not from not doing things, really, or not knowing. It's because there are simple things that you could do that you're not doing. So and it's just that it's the procrastination type thing that causes more stress. Because if you don't know, you're oblivious, you're actually not stressful. Ignorance is bliss. So.
Blissfully ignorant. I'm not blissfully ignorant, but I always have an extra amount to pay every time I pay my taxes. Unfortunately, I have to do extensions because of K-1s and all the other good stuff. But, even with the best planning and even with the best of everything, I try to get it exactly right. It never is exactly right. It's just, perfectly imperfect. But at least it's not. The first time that I was struck was a very, very large number, like more than most people's salary. And so I learned very quickly that you can't live that way as an entrepreneur or an investor. You have to really kind of have a handle on it. So take one step at a time. I just heard in and out. What's happening? Are you positive or negative on a monthly basis? And let's get
green or red. I like flashlights. I like colors. It's just simple snapshot looking at it.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, because, entrepreneurship is not that, if you come from a W-2 world, you have a steady paycheck, you know what's coming in, and then all of a sudden you jump and you're an entrepreneur. And some months are good and some months are bad. And talk a little bit about financial management in a company or a business that's very cyclical. And let's just use real estate sales, for example. In Texas, everybody shops for new houses in March through August. They want to move before the school year starts so their kids can start in the new school and, on time when the school starts. So if you already know that you kind of have a cyclical business, an off season and an on season, or let's talk about retail, right, where it's very backloaded to the Christmas season, like gifting. Like, how can those entrepreneurs who have very lean months but then have very large months, what is a easy way to get started with fiscal management so that there's going to be some months where you're inventory loading for Christmas, for example, and so you might have a negative month in preparation for the sales season. Like, what does that look like for those businesses? How can they have that, financial freedom to know, okay, I'm squirreling away for the rainy day, right? What does that look like, and how do you help people move forward with that?
Yeah, a lot of that is like just being able to negotiate some things, in terms of, sometimes it's better, the phrase is pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, right? Yeah. So not really, first thing you can ask, in terms of being able to get, I was a big fan of, in the beginning when I was starting off, because I worked in B2B sales, kind of had my own business before, and those were very kind of, big ticket items, but very uneven. And, just being able to, in the context of a big deal, just kind of negotiate some things that are, kind of like from my lawyer days, almost like a retainer, where you can, in exchange for maybe asking to give them a discount, in exchange for just having some of the income, by the way, disclaimer, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, I'm not your financial advisor, so check with this. But, sometimes it's just like being able to work with your clients and, this coming in. Is there a way that you can structure the income so that, maybe you give them some benefit that they're willing to work with you, Mm-hmm. So that's just something simple, first asking.
Yep. And negotiation is everything. And you don't know if you don't ask. Like, that's one of the cardinal rules of business in my mind. You negotiate everything. Everything is always negotiable. And even utilities, like, people are like, well, I need a cell phone and I need internet, but they're not going to work with me. Yeah, right. They would rather keep you as a client. If you're a little bit lean, they'd rather keep you on than have to go get another client, because it's always more expensive to get a new client than it is to keep your existing clientele. So I agree with you. Ask and everything's negotiable. Any other like silver bullet, like spectacular gems that people can start working on?
I think that one of the things, thanks to, I guess, TikTok, there's things where you might have now, like my clients are seeing it just like everyday people, just like nurses, truckers to, doctors, lawyers. They're like, they're calling and they're like, what is that insurance that I can borrow against? Or, ask yourself, do you have insurance that costs you money or makes you money? And so a lot of people don't realize that insurance is a very big part of, the top 1% of the country's net wealth is a strategy for that. And that can also, to your point, help out with things like paying those taxes. As a business owner, you can use these strategies where, just really in a nutshell, you have what's called a participating whole life insurance policy that builds cash value very quickly, and that builds in an account, and then you can take a loan against it, borrow money from the insurance carrier, and they'll give you a loan against it, and at a lower rate than the cash value is accumulating. So that's something that you can use, and I use that myself to fund my business, because I have a lot of income coming in, a lot of expenses also going out, but I put it through the Debt-Free Life program, and it actually builds wealth that way as well, just in the background. And then come tax time, if I need to pay anything, guess what? That's been growing in that account separately back in the background. So,
and you brought that up, and that is a tool. It's a tool that a lot of people use to leverage to purchase other things. Once that builds up, then they use it to purchase an investment property or other things that might be assets that they're going instead of using. You become your own bank in essence, right?
You become your own bank, right? And it's very, so they're like good debt, bad debt. If you're taking on debt, like as a real estate owner or as a business owner, arguable maybe for a homeowner if you have a mortgage. But also you can use it to actually get out of debt. And if you maybe racked up a lot of credit cards, car payments, things like that, it uses the power of that because it's tax free. Like I ask, questions to all my clients. I'm like, well, for income, would you prefer taxable, tax deferred, or tax free?
Always
right?
Tax free.
Right. Tax free. So, and this is one of the things too, a lot of, corporate, and I was guilty too. I didn't know what I didn't know. When I was working in corporate America, I put in the money in the 401ks, right? Which personally, I don't think now, knowing a little bit more about it, 401ks, is that taxable, tax deferred, or tax free income?
Well, if you're a Roth, it's fine, but otherwise you're tax deferred. You have to pay it on the withdrawal.
Exactly. And that's the part most of them, say, what was the reason why you put in the 401k? And most people say,
so that I can live in retirement.
Right. So it's for retirement, and it's pre-tax, right?
Yep.
They don't mention the part about, well, you still have to pay taxes at the end. And even if you grew your portfolio 25%, right, which would be unheard of in a 401k, basically you just get, you put in money for until you're retired, 59 and a half, I believe, and then you take it out and you're taxable. And basically all of that growth goes in taxes. So there are just better ways, but we don't know what we don't know. And I was guilty of it. I maxed out my 401k and also even put in post,
Yep. I did the same. I mean, I came from medicine, and you really don't know what you don't know because we don't learn these things in school. And, some people are like, well, those are things for the wealthy, but the reality is that's something that anyone can take advantage of. It doesn't take a whole lot to get involved. So talk a little bit about the people who are a little bit strapped, and you're like, I didn't even know we were going to go in this direction, but if you don't have an insurance policy like this, what is the way to get started? Like, because people get scared, they hear it, they're like, oh yeah, like insurance is a fraud. Like there's all these beliefs about it. But what is an easy way for people to get started, even if they don't have a high net worth or they don't have a lot of cash up front?
Honestly, it's not a fit for everybody. You need to have, a healthy body and at least some disposable income. So if you're just barely making ends meet, it's probably not going to be, you need to focus on the basics. But if you have, even if you're a person that has, I just had this with a client, and you have a lot of credit card debt that you racked up, and you're maybe only paying the minimum, or maybe just putting an extra 100 or 200 towards above the minimum payment amount, we can help you get out of debt, through these programs, to basically pay off those, often, shaving years off what you would otherwise. So, and without spending anything more than what you're spending now, because you're paying the thing about paying the mortgage or paying extra to the credit card companies. What's the issue with that? Once it's gone, it's gone. Yep. You're not earning anything, right? So this is a way where, to your point earlier, we were saying, where you're putting it in the program where it's earning you tax-free interest, and then you can borrow against it and then still pay those bills. So it's just education. This is one of the things, guess what? I didn't know until I knew too. They didn't teach you this in Columbia Business School. I didn't learn this from my parents. So.
They definitely don't teach you in medical school either. I can vouch for that. So talk to me, Linda, for anybody who's watching and they're like, holy cow, I had no idea all the things that I didn't know about, because a lot of people, this is brand new. And if you're listening, it's okay. It was brand new for me. It was brand new for Linda at one point in time. We all start somewhere. And literally, there are no resources for this. We don't learn this as kids. We don't learn this in school or college or professional programs or on the job even. But if you are interested, if somebody is interested in learning more and getting a little bit more of FQ, a financial intelligence score up there, Like, what are some things that they can start doing? Are there some resources? How can they contact you so that they can start to get a little bit more savvy in that area?
Yeah, they can reach out to me, on most common way is on Instagram. It's Linda Chung Official. I get direct, messages and contacts from people, and also Chung Financial Services. There's a part there all about Debt-Free Life, which is the program that we have, that, does all these things. It can, pay off debts. It can create tax-free retirement. It can help you fund your business, capital more effectively. It's a very, very powerful tool. And, sometimes it's called under the umbrella of infinite banking. So you can research that as well. And really, you just want to just make sure you're working with, they're reputable companies, insurance especially. You do not want to work with any companies that haven't been around at least several hundred years. Okay. So.
Well, we see that. I don't know about you, but I live in Texas, and we've seen that in the property and casualty. And, all of these different insurance companies are now no longer writing policies here, or they're not viable. So you have to be very careful about insurance in general, and make sure that you're researching that. So, Linda, tell me a little bit about when you first discovered some of these things that you're now practicing that have helped you to become as successful as you are. Tell me, if you could go back to the version of you that didn't have this FQ, what would you tell yourself?
I would say I didn't have it because I wasn't surrounding myself with the people who did know this, and I think, as someone, a mutual friend, JT Fox, says, your net worth is your network, and really surrounding yourself around people who who know this. And I think genuinely, I'm of the view people generally want to help people, but and you want to go with people that you trust and respect and admire. And you learn from this, really from people who have been doing it, not from people who have been selling you it, so don't trust from financial advice from people who aren't living and breathing it and haven't, done it themselves, walk the walk. So I think that's really important. And, we're born into this world, and then we grow up and surrounded, go to school and get the jobs and so forth. And then at a certain point, you have the choice to who you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. And you're not, I think, a victim of those circumstances, really. So it's just have a clear vision on what you want, why you want it, and then figure out how to get there. And I ultimately believe that business and life in general is all about the people and the relationships that you build. So surround yourself with, the good quality people.
Absolutely. And something
yourself,
that
Jen.
Yeah, I completely concur with you. And something that I just want to kind of throw out there is sometimes you're intimidated to go into those groups because you don't know. But the reality is if you're surrounding yourself by people and you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You can't learn mm-hmm. and grow unless you're uncomfortable putting yourselves in that room where you're like, holy cow, I don't even know what these people are talking about. And I'll share with you, like a couple years ago, I went into one of these rooms, and I'm very familiar with some area, like with business. I'm not very savvy, and I wasn't savvy at all at real estate at the time. And I was literally in the room on my phone Googling things that I was hearing because I just had never been exposed to it before. And one of two things could have happened, right? I could have never gone back because I was intimidated and I didn't know the things, or I could keep showing up and learn and grow. And I chose the latter. And as a result, I now invest in a lot of real estate. And it's been very good and beneficial. So if you're listening to this show right now, if you're listening to the things that Linda and I are talking about, today is the day to start. Find those people who know the things that you want to learn. Find the people who are living it, who have achieved it, whether it's a business coach in business, whether it's a financial mentor in your finances. Find those people and surround yourself by those people. I know Linda very well. She is excellent at this. She walks her talk truly, and she's an amazing resource. So she shared with you how to get with her. Please reach out to her if you have any additional questions. Linda loves to educate. So, Linda, we are drawing towards the close. And if there was one action step that you wanted our viewers and listeners to take today, what would it be?
I'd say wherever you are, no judgment, accept that and just know where you're going. And really, you might not be able to change your financial situation overnight, but at least you can start to change the direction right now. Just take that one next step.
Perfect. One next step, break it down. Thank you so much for bringing your expertise and your amazingness to our viewers and our listeners today. Linda, it's been absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you, Jen.
Absolutely. And you, yes, you know, I'm talking to you. You heard all things financial. You heard a lot of different tools. Linda said, start where you are. If you have no clue and you ignore your finances, guess what? We've all been there at one point in time. Today is the day to take a look and know what's going in and what's going out. If you're already there and you need a little extra push, ask yourself, what is the next step? If I'm already kind of have a good idea of my budget, I already kind of have an idea and a growing portfolio, what's the next step to get me to where I really want to be? And take that step today, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Because it's that small step forward that creates that positive momentum. And with that momentum, you're going to grow, and the impact will impact your family, your friends, your community, and your world. So you know that's why we're here today. Go ahead and do that. Until we meet again, you know, all good things come to an end, but we'll be here same time, same station next week. Go win today, win this week, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a NowMedia Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Stop and think. How often do you take the time to set goals? And when you set those goals, how often do you hit them? The problem is the word goal setting. We all have goals, but goals are just wishes. Goals are what we want. What we really need is called result setting. My name is Katrin Becker, and what I do is create tailor-made result plans that ensure people will hit their targets. If you are committed for real results, let's chat and see which program is right for you and your team. Goals are just what we want, but together, results are what we will achieve.
The tax and bookkeeping team is key to any successful business. At Gunderson's Bookkeeping, our passion is to help small business owners grow, be profitable, and to prosper. We specialize in supporting small to mid-sized business owners who want to hire a full-time or even a part-time bookkeeper, but just do not have the funds. In addition, we free business owners from the tedious tasks of bookkeeping and help them focus on their business operations, their growth, and profitability. Gunderson's Bookkeeping is your business solutions partner, offering a broad range of services to meet the needs of our clients. A profitable business needs accurate and reliable books, so take a strong step and call us today for your personal, no-risk consultation.
Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Gaudet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
Hi, my name is Elias Basabe, founder of Little Maria's Cafe Restaurant in West Houston, located in 2901 Wilkers Drive, Suite 137, first floor. Here you will find a family-friendly and relaxed environment where you can enjoy a delicious homemade breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We know you need to get to work fast, and we want you to enjoy a tasty, quality, and healthy homemade food. So come and visit us for a great, nutritious meal at an affordable price. We specialize in tasty breakfasts, deli sandwiches, fish, even barbecue cookouts. Little Maria's Cafe has it all. We only use the great quality of bird's head meats and products. Just like you, we love to get you up early. Little Maria's Cafe is open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can dine in with us during breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or we can have it ready for you for pickup. Visit us today on the first floor of the CMPC Center at 2901 Wilkers Drive, Suite 137, first floor. Order now at 832-667-8377.